Yo, yo, yo. Okay, just making sure everything was working there. Okay, so we're live here on YouTube now. I'm gonna go ahead and just drop this in the Telegram because I know there's a couple people that had asked me a couple things about a couple different things. So we'll go straight into the. Oh, excuse me. I don't know why it's not coming up over here. So we'll go straight into the higher time frame breakdown like we always do, and then we'll go over any of the positions that we took or dropped inside the Telegram today. So um, let me see here. Give me 1 second. And I want to type. Let me type into the chat here so I can see here really fast how this if this shows up. And for some reason, I can't really see the chat, even though I should be able to. So let me try it really quick. Docs, YouTube chat. Well, either way, I'll keep the chat up here. So if you guys have any questions or anything like that, we can answer them here. But let me message the few people that had asked me a few questions before I go into my rant. And then you just gotta figure out why the chat's not showing up here on OBS. That's what I gotta figure out. Hmm. Yeah, so I'll figure that out. As we go. But really quick, so this is gonna be the trade review for Thursday, March 5th, 2026. And man, we caught a lot of moves today. I will say there was quite a bit of up and down, trading, right? As you can see here on this far left screen, we're definitely in a daily range. So when you look at this, it's just very consolidated, I would say, in between these areas here. So like looking at the perspective of this seems like a massive consolidation where price is basically getting stuck, and then you're having to look for R multiple setups, right? So you're looking for A to B type of setups. Yo, what's up, bro? Okay, cool. So I'm still trying to figure out OBS here and different stuff, but man, we had a crazy day today. Like I said, I'm gonna go over a top-down analysis. Before pre-New York, why we were looking for shorts, and then in the second half of the day, how we were able to catch that buy position back up. So what's up, Mason? What's goody, bro? We're actually going to be opening Q2 a Zoom call for private members, right, for live trading, just to be able to come in and work the system and also be able to like provide like one-on-one mentorship for the edge. So any questions that you guys have or any trades you took today, we're just here to discuss and kind of look over. So if you guys want to look at any ES or any YM, I also have a pretty good idea on some of those trades on the stuff that we were looking for when it comes to the edge. And so let me fix this mic here really quick. Okay, cool. So looking at this price, okay, so we'll go from the top down and kind of have an understanding of what we were looking for. Me personally today, what I was essentially looking for was going to be sells, right? The reason why I was looking for sells is because you guys can see here on the far right side, H1, I'll actually just bring over a double window like this, right? On that H1, what we could see before New York was this. You actually had, this was the 8 a.m. candle, so this would have been 7 to 8. So you didn't have this candle yet. And so for me, what I was looking for, and we had the news at 7:30, so news is an excuse to push price to hurt traders. And so for me, what I was essentially seeing around that 7 a.m. time was, it would have actually looked, it's a little bit easier to see on a 15-minute, because like we like to execute on smaller time frames. So this is what we would have essentially been seeing, 7:30 news. I was essentially wanting to get down to the low of day, if that makes sense, right? I wanted to see price reach down from here, because we had already rejected, right? Like we had come up, made a new high, took the previous day high out in the overnight session and made a new high on day, and then we kind of started to fall off. Then as you can see at the London Open, right, price comes down, draws on this liquidity, and then rallies right from 25,000 whole level back up to the daily open, which is very predictable, right? And not only that, they move into the order block, supply candle, whatever you want to call it. We call it supply because that's what we believe it is. And so what I'm essentially saying right here is these special candles that we're looking for, we were looking for this area to maintain, to be able to see sell side, right? And so that's what we got, right? This was at 3 in the morning, so I'm not like actively trading these here, but I'm just basically looking over where the liquidity is resting and sitting, right? And so coming into the New York, we had the 7:30 news, which was, this was 7:15, and then this would have been that next candle. I started getting short in the Telegram. If you guys are following that, I started getting short in here, and I was looking for about a 1 to 3 hour setup, right? And it was as it was already falling, we had already started to see the 15 and 5 and everything start to work together. And then if you guys are following how we actually work our system, at the 3R, we actually manage half of our volume, and then we're looking for about a 1 to 5R, right? And so that would have been really nice to see them sweep the IB low, right? So the initial balance low, and then to see them sweep those overnight traders buy positions, essentially, right? And so we ended up getting a really nice position on that to get that TP, but we only got the 1 to 3. So that started us off with a 1.5R on the day. And then if you go and look at like a 15.5, which I'll bring that over here really quick. If you're looking at a 15.5, it's a lot easier to see. And let me know, guys, in the comments and stuff too, if it's hard to see for any kind of reason. But now the cool thing was, if I take a trade, me personally, before New York Open, I'm gonna cover the position because I already know that New York Open is gonna manipulate and start to push price in a specific way. And so, as you can see, we took the shorts. So if you kind of have your eyes here, this is where we started looking for those shorts. Right, so it was like right here, and then it was a 1 to 3R with a 1 to 5R target. So on the 5-minute, you ended up getting 735 to 740. Price makes a new lower low, right? So I'm just essentially reading price action in this situation here, lower low, and then it comes back into my 15-minute supply candle to attack the low of day, if that makes sense, right? And so we were able to capitalize on that. As you can see right here, 8:15 going into 8:20, so about 10 minutes out before the New York Open here in just a second, we end up getting our delivery of liquidity on the 1 to 5R area. So we had already cut our move at 1 to 3, right? And we were looking for a 1 to 5R. Now the 1 to 5R didn't deliver, but we had secured half the position. So essentially how it looked on this first one was, if I went back into replay mode here on the 5-minute, you can see here, we ended up taking the trade, I believe. I'm trying to make sure I have it lined up with that 15-minute. We took the trade, I have to see how it looks on the 5-minute, guys. So we took the trade essentially, let's just say right in here. So went short here, 4 contracts, volume is what I use on my initial market, sell, right? And then we had our shorts right in here. Now, we always like to use our risk reward box to be able to gauge everything. It'll be a little distorted just because of how we're doing it in replay mode. So 1 to 3, right? That's what we were looking for right there. And then we had stop loss at our 20 handle risk, and then we had a TP, right? Because this is a pre-New York trade for a 1 to 5 R. So we had a 1 to 5 R mapped out, right? And then at our 1 to 3, right, we already had come in here and set up our 1 to 3 R risk reward to go ahead and take us out. So now we got to remember, with full volume, if you hit the 3R spot and you cut half your volume, you're actually securing a 1.5 R. But if you're risking 1 R per trade, that's actually putting you in the positive by 0.5, if that makes sense. Okay, so essentially what I come in here and do is at the 3R spot, I cut half the volume, right? So if I'm in sales, I want to see a buy limit, right? Half the volume of 4 is going to be 2. And you can do this with whatever amount of volume you're using, right? Like if I use like a high leverage account, right? I would do maybe 6 contracts and cut them to 3, right? If you're down on the week, maybe you're using just 2 contracts and cutting to 1 here, right? Maybe you're getting used to this system. I would say start with 2 contracts and then cut to 1 in the same situation, okay? You don't have to start with 4 contracts just because you see me do 4 contracts. So cool. So, because someone asked me that today, that's why I'm saying that. They're like, I have to do 4? I'm like, no, you don't have to do 4. So then you want to go ahead and put half of your volume here, right? So that's what we did. We put half the volume here. Now, think about this. As we're playing into New York, we're anticipating shorts, right, to go ahead and take that liquidity. And when that liquidity is taken, to see the buy position back up, right? And the reason why we're wanting to see the buy position is because when the shorts cover, like if you were short from overnight, think about it. You would have to put what? A buy limit down here to get out. And so that's how we're able to find those transitional moves and see those areas respond. And so as we go into New York, price starts to go in our favor, obviously fairly quickly here, right? And then we ended up getting the delivery of the 1.5R, right? So as soon as you go 1.5R and it delivers, especially before New York, you want to be risk off on the trade, right? And so now we've gotten our 1.5R deliver, right, spot, and we're looking for the 5R spot. Now I want to say something really quick. Depending on your level of experience, right, you may be a 1 to 3R trader in the beginning, and that's just the type of move. Like right here, this move right here, this is maybe all you're looking for, right? And you get out of the markets. You risk your 20 for your 60, and that's it, okay? Now, right here, we have a system. So we already cut half of our volume, and then we trailed we wanted to see the 1 to 5R. Now, New York, this was at 8.15, right, to 8.20. The next candle that prints is going to be 8.20 to 8.25. And then the very next candle that prints, and we're already break even, is going to be the New York Open, okay? And so this is the candle right here, 8.25 to 8.30. And then we have the New York Open candle right here. Bam. And it shoots up. Now, guys, why does it shoot up? It's because of supply and demand and liquidity, right? There's no other way around it. You just seen I was basically short, and I was actually looking at shorts overnight, but I just don't play the overnight, like on CFD, right? And so when we took profit and it hit that partial, all you're seeing is just hella buy limits filling all at the same time as things are transitioning, if that makes sense, okay? And so, bam, we're out of that trade. We still had a small profit on the day. Now, me personally, I did not take the buy up because I was already, right? I was already in those shorts pre-New York. And that's where I would say you want to just wait for equities open to get the best move, just because, you know, I thought that news, though, was going to run us down to 24.9 or maybe 24,800, and then we'd see the reclap during New York session, right? And so, yeah. So yeah, now I would say this: if I didn't have a trade, right? If I didn't have a trade in this situation, I was evaluating this trade on the 1 minute just like this. Okay, so I'll show you guys 5 and 1 minute because that's where I take my executions is on 5 and 1 minute. If I didn't have that short, how I would have played this position at New York, it would have been very difficult because you can see, right, 8:30 to 8:35, the very first candle of the open is so aggressive. It's 100 handles, right? So unless you were already anticipating, I would say at 8:24 to 8:25, like right here, to buy this position in this area, as soon as the open happened, then you most likely didn't catch that position. And if you did, you probably caught the position somewhere like this, right? Like up in here, and it was too late. Now the continuation area that I actually did like, that I thought was really good, was when we got to 8:40 to 8:45. The best trades happen in the first 15 minutes of the hour or the last 15 minutes of the hour. Okay, and so I'm looking at the chat. You said this is where I got chopped up today. Where did you get chopped up? So I have an idea, and I can kind of go over because I'm gonna explain the shorts. I'm gonna explain the buys I didn't take, and then I'm gonna explain the short that I did take up in here, and I'm also gonna talk about inversions. Or inversion fair value gaps, because that's really important in my system, but I just look at it differently than the terminology. So I'll wait a second here for you to respond in there, Chad. But this area right here, unless you're in this position, it's a really forceful trade. So what I like to do is I like to wait for that 5 minute candle, that first sign of weakness after the 100 point rally, right? You got 8:40, 8:45, and then this next candle starts to print bullish. Well, also what you're looking at on a small time frame is a V-shaped recovery. Okay, got you. Yeah, I mean that makes sense. So this might help what I'm about to go over here when you're saying trying to frame buys. Okay, is once that price runs off so fast, right? The plies runs off on the plug twice too quick. Then wait for the V-shaped recovery. So wait for the 5 minute candle to print lower like this and give you like a demand on the way up, essentially, right? So this would have been like a demand to continue to go higher, like in this area, and then you want to be waiting with 5 minute closures, right? So how I like to look at the markets is when I talk about 5 minute closures, when you would identify on a 1 minute time frame is the last minute of that candle's closure. So you can see right here on the right side we have 8:44 to 8:45, then you have 8:45 to 8:46, and then 8:46 to 8:47. You've got to be locked in on this candle if you're taking these type of setups, right? Because essentially, like, you're essentially saying I want to see price go from 24,050 area up to above daily open, and potentially, right, we're wanting to see price go above these highs. Now, why have I been a lot more profitable recently, and a lot more stress free? Because I'm playing R multiples. I don't care if it gets all the way up here, right? Because I'm going to be trailing the market by 2R. So if I'm looking at a specific area like this area here, I ended up taking a position, I believe here. I'll have to look at the chat or the telegrams, because I actually was posting a lot of stuff at Midi Boys. But we were looking for that 1 to 3, so just getting back above those highs, and then price pushing to daily open. So this would have been a better chance, especially with the timing. Another thing I would say is if you're having trouble framing up something or getting chopped up, wait for the first 15 or last 15 minutes of the hour and those 5 minute candle closures areas. Like limit, like really be selective and strip away, just those random trades at like 9:30 or different stuff like that. The 5 minute was too fast, and I took the next candle entry, but it clapped my stop loss. Okay, let me see here. I'm wondering, did you take it right at 8:30? Just because it depends, but just let me know that too. And then, so this would have been like the better area, I think, to take up to the target area. Now, we didn't get price to go deliver through the overnight liquidity, right, or the new high on day. So I was like, like this. I was being nervous about this. Let me see actually what we took, because I know we took the shorts, but I just can't remember if we took those buys up. I don't believe I took any buys up today. Let me just check here really quick. Community chat. We took a lot of trades today, because we continued to go break even or win. So it was just kind of a crazy day. It doesn't always go like that, honestly. I'm just trying to make sure that I didn't post any buy positions in there. Or did I? Nope, this would have been after the run up. Let me see here really quick. Okay, yeah. So the first trade that I personally took was short. So we'll go over that once I get to the shorts area. And I'll pull that up here in just a second. So, like I said, hypothetically, right, this would have been, I thought, a really good area to find R&R, right, being on the right side of entry candle that we look for, and then seeing the continuation up to the next level, right? Now, like I said, I can only talk about that one in hindsight because I didn't take that one. No, I took the 935 candle, so 835 your time. Okay, so so it had already went all the way up. Is that what you're saying? I just want to make sure that's what I'm. No, I took the 935 candles, so 835 your time. Because another thing is gonna be his location, right? You want your area, like when this took the liquidity down here at the lows, you want your trade to be inside the demand area, right? You want, like when you're looking right on a small time frame on like 1 minute, you're gonna want your trade to be on this in a 1 minute mitigation before it goes higher. No, I took. So what was the price that you got in, just so I have an idea? Because if you gotta chase it, then that's where they're gonna jib jab you, you know. And so I'm gonna kind of go. I'll come back to that part if whenever you come into the chat. But the shorts that we ended up seeing, I'll show you guys how I kind of tricked myself out of it, and then out of the bigger short, and then I'll show how we ended up playing another buy position. So after the first 5 minute print, I bought the open of the next candle. Yeah. So yeah. So that's just gonna be a scratch from the perspective of like if you bought this exact next candle, there you're just not inside demand, so that's okay. So you just gotta let that market close, right, and give you a framework candle on the way up, trap candle, whatever you want to call it, and then wait for I call it a railroad candle, right, the FU situation, the V shape recovery on the 1 minute, right, to play the right side of that area. Now you have to be very in tune, I would say, and locked in to get this one. But even if you're not as accurate in the beginning, or like you hesitate, because like that's what we all do, even taking this trade, if you're looking left, right, and you're just focused on getting inside this 5 minute candle on the way up, right, so you want to stay inside that 50% area, right, you could still be taking a trade. You could still be taking a trade essentially here. Like if it's going up, like see how when I move my cursor on the left side, how I'm still under that 50% mark on the 5 minute dump. So even if you took the trade, I would say anywhere with that point of interest, like as it's starting to rally up, like right here, and you took this for a 1 to 3, you're gonna hit, right? If you let this trade play out, you're gonna hit the 1 to 3, and now you should be break even, right, to potentially go up for the 1 to 5 setup. Okay, so that's why I said you want to make sure you're on that right side of the setup. And then the first shorts that we took, I'll go over. So after that first 5 minute print, I bought, yeah, okay, just want to make sure I read that. Okay, and then the first trade that we ended up taking was this one. So I'll bring this back over really quick. And the first trade I ended up taking was this. So I'm going to see if it shows up. But as you guys can see here, right, I hesitated inside the 25,180 level because I was like, I just wanted them to deliver that liquidity. They did reach right above that high. But I just felt like for some reason, I don't know what made me hesitate inside that 25,180. I needed more confirmation to see that we were going to roll over. And that's pretty much what took me out of holding this trade longer, because I ended up going, as you guys can see right here, break even a little earlier. Now, if I would have taken that trade where I needed to, above 25,180, I don't go break even on that trade, and we roll that down to the downside like we were wanting, okay? And so I want to see if this is showing up the right way, or if you guys can at least even see it. Or if it's like super small. Let me see this really quick. So it might be super small to see on there, so I'll just bring up the real photo next time. But that's essentially what was happening, right? We seen the 5 minute push up. right? And then we've seen the price come down. Now, one thing I'll say this is too, like I like to take 15 5-minute setups. So as soon as this 15-minute candle closed, 9 to 9:15, and then you had 9:15 to 9:30 open, I was already looking at this as an order block candle essentially, right? And I was looking at this as like an area of supply that I wanted to sell above daily open in bearish conditions, okay? And so when you look at a 1-minute time frame, right, and you start studying what most people call inversions, right, or inversion fair value gaps, most people are looking at this from a perspective of, okay, price is pushing up on that 1 minute and it creates this inversion, right? Or it creates this fair value gap. So like, I guess you could essentially say this, right? And then they're looking for price to either fail that area or fall. And so for me, what I'm looking for is I was looking for price at the right time. First 15 minutes of the hour, last 15 minutes of the hour. I was looking for price up in here, but I hesitated, right? But then once we started to roll over, right, and we were still above daily, that's where I started to take those shorts, which was right in here. So let me kind of show where I took the short. So let me go back to that price level because I just want to make sure. So I took a lot of trades today. Sorry, guys. 24 or 25 163. Okay, so 25 163. All right, and so by the time I took that short, we were like right in here. Right, and I was looking for price to come back down. I seen price not really go in my favor, and then I was able to go break even on that trade. So we went break even on the first one, and then looking at this again, I was like, well, of course we want to see price go all the way down and go to below that New York low. And so what I told myself at this point, since I got broken even, had a small win pre-New York. I got broken even on the shorts because I didn't enter at the right time. I told myself once we got down to below the New York low, that I was going to look for the short covering and play the bounce back up, just like I normally do on any given setup, right? And so that turned out to be a beautiful setup, right? I'm pretty sure we had that one in the Telegram as well. Let me go ahead and look at this really quick, right? So this was the next setup that we took, right? Below old lows, and then we ended up framing it. I could have framed it a little bit better, right? If we actually look at this, I could have framed it a little bit better inside that 1 minute area, like 24,950. But you don't need to be don't be so stickler in the entry. Be more stickler and making sure your risk is 20 handles, right? If that's what you tell yourself your risk is going to be, right? And so this setup played out really nice, right? This was at 932. Now, this was the only reason I didn't like this setup to be the one that I thought was going to go because of the timing. But it was because of how I look at my setups is as price is drawing on liquidity, I'm in the markets, all right? And so right here, we took this trade right here. It was definitely a good 1 to 3, and you obviously could have completed that 1 to 3 fairly quickly. And then we were able to push out a 1 to 5 trade and trail risk up and secure the bag on this one, okay? And then the next trade we ended up taking was, that's what you guys can see obviously here. We ended up doing what I'm telling you guys that we did right there, right? And so we went break even fairly quickly on that one as well, but we were able to deliver the spot that we wanted, and then we ended up seeing price go a little bit higher to our 1 to 5 area. And so the next one that we took, I'm just trying to look and see, all right, that was the same one. W's in the chat. And then I had other ones that I took, I believe, other than this. Oh, okay, so this is what I ended up doing. So we hit the 1 to 5 R so fast that I ended up buying a continuation, right? And so that trade didn't play out as great, but we still were able to protect our profits, okay? And so this one is the next one that we ended up looking at. I'm just trying to make sure I'm looking at all these because we took a lot of trades today, right? And so you can see here, right, we went break even fairly quickly, and we were wanting to just see that push up and continue to our target. And then we ended up having, right, 1025. You guys can see the timing down here, 1025. Ended up taking a position again in this area here, right? So price comes down 1025, right? This would have been 1025, like right in here. And we were looking to play this position on the right side to go back up, right? And so all these setups, guys, if you guys notice, it's 1 to 5 R, 1 to 3 R that you're cutting, and then 1 to 5 R for the TP, right? And then you just have to know how to manage that trade. What's up? What's good, Alvin? What's good, bro? It's good to hear from you, bro. Actually had a good, hell yeah, bro. That's what's up, bro. That's awesome. So I'm just trying to see what else we took here really quick. 1025, we took that one. And then, was that it? That wasn't it. Oh, okay. Then it was the end of the day trades. So that was pretty much, like I said, we took this one, we were able to capitalize on that. And then 1025, we were looking for prices to come back down into that 5-minute area. And we were able to take a really, really nice trade on this one. So I'm pretty sure I've seen it better on the 5-minute and 15. And so now you had 1015 to 1020, and then you have the sign of strength off the lows, noobs buy tops and sell bottoms. So essentially people are just trying to come in here as price is selling off like here, and they're just trying to sell to this low, and then they get clapped because they're doing the exact opposite of how trading should work, right? And so for here, what we're essentially looking at is we got that 5-minute sign of strength, 20 to 25. Now the only other time I really like to take trades outside of the first 15 or last 15 minutes of the hour is I do like the London close at 10:30, right? Because a lot of traders look at that time and they evaluate their trades off of that, right? And so we were able to, again, right, on that 1 minute, just to kind of give an idea, we were able to frame up edge, right? And we were looking for the price to continue up in here. So we want to be below New York Open, and we wanted to frame up the 15-minute at the same time. So for me, what I ended up framing up, I believe, was 1025. We were already in the trade. So I ended up framing up this area right here for that 1 to 3, and then we ended up being able to produce, right, because we were shooting for supply and then people shorting here's liquidity in 25-1, we were able to secure another 1 to 5 R, okay? And so either you're gonna go ahead and when it gets to 1 to 3, have half of your volume come off, right? Half your volume comes off, you go break even on the remainder of the trade, and then you're done at the 1 to 5 mark, right? Or you're going to trail the risk as price starts moving in your favor and trail it by 2R, okay? And so we had a lot of good range buy positions, I thought, today that were, really good. And then the one that really produced for me today was later in the day, around like after lunchtime, which I posted a lot about, I believe, in all the telegrams. But basically, we were looking for short covering, right? We were looking for these individuals that shorted, overnight, shorted London, shorted New York highs, and we are looking for them to start to cover, right? So when they start to cover, what are they doing? They're putting buy limits in. What level did we talk about in the pre-market? We talked about the demand level that was in alignment with 24,800, okay? And so to see short accumulation, right, which this is accumulation right here on the right side, right? To see accumulation and to see the pattern that we like to see, right? So prices coming down, makes that low, comes back up, does this, does that thing here, and then goes. That's exactly what we're looking for, fam. And so we ended up taking that trade around, I think it was closer to like 145 is when I took this one. I don't know why this is actually here, but we took this trade right in here, and then we ended up doing the same thing. Now this trade was crazy for me because I had already won on the day 2 5Rs, so I was up like 10R on the day, and so I just decided to take a trade that I dropped in the RickeyTrades Telegram, where I was able to find that trade at 24,815s and play that all the way back up, and I had added some size to it because it didn't matter if I lost, that trade. Essentially, I would still be up almost 7-8R on the day, and so really crazy trade up to this across the accounts, and that was just insane. And so okay, I just want to make sure I was reading that right. So yeah, I mean, so pretty good day, but I mean, guys, the system works, right? If you're figuring out edge and you're figuring out how to think in probabilities, you're gonna have better setups. Like I could go over ES, I could go over YM. It really doesn't matter, and I could give you a plan essentially for each one. Now we do have CFD longs. I don't know if you guys see that, but I take the same trades on CFD that I take on futures. So I ended up taking that same trade, 24,780. As you can see, 2134. So that would have been 1:34 p.m. Central Time Zone, and went break even. That's why it says 0 for 1,500, right? Because basically I took a $4 per point trade on CFD, and I'm targeting the double tops, right? So market just opened here. Is it 5 o'clock? Okay, cool. Market just opened, and as you guys can see, we have this liquidity that we wanted, double top in pattern, that we want to see delivered going into tomorrow. So to make it a little bit easier, if you're looking at like CFD pricing, it's literally no different on your personal accounts than it is on futures. You're gonna have the same targets, same areas, same risk management, everything. Except the difference in this trade is this trade's looking to be about a 1 to 20 R, right? If it delivers that liquidity based on what I risked $80, right? And if you times 80 times 20, that's like $1,600, right? Or something like that. So, yeah, it's going to be the same way no matter how you look at it across the board. Let me send one message out real quick, but if you guys have any questions or you want me to pull up any charts or any crypto or anything like that, just let me know and we can definitely look at it. And then, yeah, Chad, too, I'd say this, bro, if you're still on. If you're getting chopped up, I would just like me personally, what I would tell people is to frame up everything on a 15 and 5 and just really focus on, getting it down there first. And then if you're getting chopped up to where it makes you feel any type of way, like this system should make you feel like when you lose, it's very boring and just normal. But if it's like, you take more trades than you want to, or you use more size than you want to, then I would just tell someone to, if you're doing 4 contracts and you got chopped up, I would go down to 2 contracts and work the same system, but just use 2 contracts. Because how I learned this personally was through my personal accounts, right? You want to be able to stay in the game the longest, and like what happens is like, let's say you have only 3 or 4K of personal money that you want to trade. Well, if you took, like say you had $3,000 and you took a $300 loss 10 times, your account's gone, right? So you want to be playing with a proper size that produces a good amount of output, but at the same time you don't want to do it to where like if you took 10 trades and took 10 straight losses, that's not and if it blew your account, that's not the volume for you. You want to cut down the volume. That's just for anybody, right? And so swing trades look really good going into tomorrow. And so, like I said, we took the shorts pre-New York. We seen why people covered at New York, and that's what you're seeing is short covering when that happened right there in New York from our shorts that we took from that 7:30 news. Blast up, which, like I said, if you had this buy, it still was a damn good buy. And then the other thing I would say too, Chad, real quick, is if you take a trade like this, that's like in a rush, kind of, because it just happens. It's how it works for all of us, right? Look at it from this perspective. Like if you're looking at 5 minute and 1 minute, you want to make sure that, like, say you take a trade. Oh, excuse me. Say you take a trade and it feels rushed. That's why I like to look at like 2 windows at once, like a 5 and a 1. Let's say you took that trade and it was already pushing up here, right? Instead of waiting for that 5 minute to close, there's really nothing wrong with this, right? To be honest, like if you're as long as you're using a 1 to 3 R, that trade still would have produced for you what you wanted, right? Even if you did, if you're looking for 1 to 5 R, but you're still late and you have that bias or you want to take it, it still is going to produce the area. Now, me personally, I'm a stickler and rather just wait for specific locations to be met, and then I like to take it. Because like for me, like if I wouldn't have taken that short, I'm definitely taking this buy for the overnight players, the draw on liquidity, because you have the 5 minute sign of strength, you have the institutional candle, right, that takes out traders. Price closes 820 825 with strength. I like to take my trade in the second candle, right, and if there's a 1 minute mitigation, so you might want to take notes on that part, right? If there's a draw on liquidity, someone asked me this question today, and I don't know if they're on here or not because they haven't done the comments, but they said they were going to be on here. But they asked me this exact question today, and I said, once you have the candle that draws on liquidity, that's the 5 minute candle that takes out the overnight low. Once that candle forms one sign of strength 5 minute candle, 820 to 825, in that second candle after the sign of strength, right? So basically we're looking at this area here. Can you identify, right, a 1 minute mitigation? Definitely. Right? And so if you can do that, right, price comes up, closes higher here, and then starts to pull back. Essentially, if you're going to buy a position like that before New York, you're essentially going to have to buy it, from the perspective of being in the framework of that 5 minute area to get this type of move. And I promise you, I probably would have gotten that move if I didn't already have the shorts, right? Because that's essentially what I really wanted. But I figured they would short down a little farther first. Okay. Hell yeah, brother. Perfect. Your outlook is insolvent as always, brother. How do you see trends for Ethereum and Bitcoin? Bullish still right? No, I don't think so. I don't think they're bullish at all. Um, for cryptocurrencies and stuff like that, I don't personally think they're bullish that much. Just because they're here, I'll show those here in just a second. Because let me make sure we went over everything for NQ here really quick. So we went over the shorts before New York. We went over the buy that I missed. We went over the V-shaped recovery continuation buy that I thought was a beautiful setup still, even if you were late. Like if you were late, you missed this one, then it comes and rips your stop. It's because you have to have edge, right? So that was beautiful. We went over the shorts that I really wanted to see them draw on the higher time frame liquidity first before getting in, and that's what made me hesitate. I ended up taking a trade and going break even on the trade. Then price ends up falling again, right down to the area, and this was the first actual trade that I took outside of. I was already up in a little bit of profit, but this is the first one I took where I actually secured the 1.3, or excuse me, the 1.3R, and then was able to extend that up to the 1.5R. And then we talked about that second trade around like 10:25, around that London close area, where we were able to push that one and try to trail and see if it was going to go as well. And then price sells off as I'm taking notes, because I usually clock out around like 11:15. Price sells off to the lower time frame area, which was essentially what we like to see as well, right? We were looking for that H1 demand area to be met at some point today, right? So going forward over here. And so it only made sense for me in my head that everyone that shorted above 25,000 or above the initial balance low, they were going to start to cover their position, because think about it, dude. They're from daily open, they're up 345 handles. Like, what else are they supposed to do? All right. So we went over all that, and then yeah, guys, this was a crazy day for me. Across the five, I was able to secure right around 2,000 per account, which was pretty crazy, right? Super excited. I think it was one. I have to do my notes later. I think it was the biggest day that I've had doing this on Top Step, at least. So going over crypto here really quick, we'll look at that really fast. And yeah, Alvin, man, I hope all's been well, bro. I haven't talked to you in a while. We'll look at dailies on these, or weeklies, excuse me. Okay, so this is the weekly, and I'll kind of go over like some of my holdings so that you can kind of see why I think this certain way. Okay, so when you look at cryptocurrency, especially the weekly, you have the 2025 high, where I personally started to short positions and get out of the markets from the 2025 area. So we had 2024. This is where 2025 started, and then a lot of people bought the 85,000 level, right? Like on spot, like on Coinbase or whatever, right? They started to buy this area, including myself, and I played a position up. Now this is like people were up about 50% on their accounts in this situation, and then price starts to do that fast up candle FU to distribute to break down, right? And so when you look at this from a perspective of like monthly, weekly, we could be, right? We could actually be in an area of support, right? We could be in an area of demand that buys up. Like, I do kind of like how this looks when you're looking at like a monthly, right? A monthly and a weekly. That does look pretty good to possibly see, price come back up and start to shoot back for the 2026 open. But I would need to see, me personally, I would need to see like a solid week close, and then I'd want to see price basically coming down into like something like this. And I'm just kind of using this tool to kind of give an idea, but I'd want to see price to stay in that area and close bullish candles, and then come back and test like 67,000 area, like 850s, wherever that would be, to see if it's going to start holding bullish structure to get back above 76. But overall, I do think that like we still need to roll over below the key level 50,000 and make people psychologically just freak out. And so yeah, that's kind of what I'm seeing there when it comes to that. And now Ethereum, very same thing. My positions that I had were from April 2025 we took them up to Don Julio 19 or to 42, and we ended up securing about 140, 130% on that, and then we started to sell it off as it started to trickle down inside of the supply. So they ran above that supply area, took the liquidity, that supply held. We've seen price fail to ever go back above 44, and then we've seen price die back to our entries. So basically what you're seeing is people finally, if they're starting to take profit, that's what you're seeing right here in these big down candles is people saying, oh shit, we're not going higher. We're not going to 10,000. So I'm going to, get out of here. And so I bought a lot. Like Alvin, when I met you, bro, we were buying back down in here in 2022, and we were doing the same thing. And so like when I got this position in April 2025, I was grateful because essentially the same price that I bought in November 2022. So this was December 2022 right here, and then November. This was like essentially like the same price almost. It's off by like $200. So like getting this 1700 area was good to me because I was dollar cost averaging from the previous 3 years ago, where I had already had to exit my position, right? And so yeah, I think they could, bro. But I do see I can't really like say or give like financial advice, but I would say with the war and everything going on, like and all that stuff, I'd be very careful, just how these are gonna respond. But they are in a good area of retracement. And then if you're not familiar with this, I'm gonna show this really quick. Something you might want to print out, and I'll drop into my Telegram. This is something that's very important to understand about crypto. Okay. Look at how this worked, right? This is called the Wall Street cheat sheet, and all this essentially is showing you is how people think and feel throughout what they're seeing, right? And so as you can see here, we've went up, we've had the euphoria, we ran the highs, complacency was like right in here, and then you start getting anxiety, denial, and panic as we're dripping down to the lows, right? So what you want to wait for, and this is just like in a 1 minute setup on MNQ, ES, or wherever you're trading, is you want to see these things play out, right? Like when I take a trade on MNQ, this shit happens like super fast, right? Like it happens every day, it happens, but just very quickly. But when you're being patient and evaluating your crypto portfolio, definitely use this. So if you don't have this, Alvin, send me a message, bro, and I'll definitely shoot it over to you on Telegram or something. So, or you can just go on Google and look up Wall Street cheat sheet. But either way, I'll send it to you, bro. So yeah, I do think based on like the holdings I have, I exited a lot of my positions. Let's say 60-70% was, most of it was when we took the double tops, right? Was up in this area, and then I'm sitting here waiting for potential DCA, right? So price to kind of like show me more higher highs and higher lows, like give me a new high, pull back into an area, and then I buy more, like let's just say 2000, to see then price continue up and take out like these highs here. That would be good, all right? But I'm being patient. Like I said, I don't really want to tell you to be like, oh, get in. But I am going to have a group here soon where I talk about how to manage that portfolio and like what areas we're actually looking for and stuff like that. So I hope that kind of helps out. You can also still use the Wyckoff logic, right? Yeah, 100%. You can use it's all a part of the Wyckoff logic. It's all the same thing. It's just that picture is layered to show you like a math word problem, right? And I sucked at those in school, right? But this is just essentially showing you what people are like. The masses are taught to see and feel certain things a certain way, but what actually prints and what actually is happening for the algorithms and the massive big investors, that's what they're seeing more, is that cheat sheet that I showed you. And I can attest to this, right? Because I've played Bitcoin so many times, like with that same logic, right? So think about it like this. Where's it at? Okay, so you can see with Bitcoin, when I played 2020, right? 2020, we did the same thing and we rallied up, and that was like the first time we ever seeing it. And then this was the first time in 2021, right? We had that euphoria. I'm a genius. We're all going to be rich, right? Everyone's like texting you probably at this time and saying buy Bitcoin, etc., right? And it's always usually, guys, look at how it shows this like euphoria time. It's always at the end of the year in the last quarter, like November, December. So like Thanksgiving, Christmas time, when people are feeling good and shit like that, right? And then what do? They run the price all the way back all the way back down to 2022, where now people who bought, they're not buying in the right areas, so they're buying in expansions on the way up, right, and getting stuck. And that's why these individuals or the masses or people you see online are like, well, I'm down on my crypto. It's like, dude, because you're buying the highs. Like, you know what I mean? Their buy positions will be like essentially like right here, right? And then they're like, damn, I'm down on crypto. Of course you are, because you got manipulated into buying a position that was terrible, right? And so that's kind of like the understanding that I use on, like, without this understanding I'm showing you right here with how to do crypto and order books, there's no way I could trade NQ, because I understand how people are basically seeing it. It's just a lot faster on NQ. Now, as you can see here, people are depressed, angry, right? That's kind of what we're looking at. You know, who shorted the market? Why did the government allow this to happen? You know, I bought the dip 1,000 times. Like, I'm done. That's where you're waiting for, because as soon as that happens, that's where we come back to this side. Hope, recovery is possible, disbelief, the rally will fail like the others, and we start getting into optimism. Like, you see how that starts to happen right in here. Then optimism is probably like in this area when price extended higher, showing signs of strength. And then the belief comes when people can see it, right? And that's when it's too late, right? People want to be like, oh, they want to be for damn sure before they get in. Now, it's not saying that they're not going to have a great position getting in still here, right? Like from this area, like they don't have a chance to make money from, like, they would have got in at like 42,000 and they would have just rode those highs from, like, let's just say this breakout candle area here to up. They're still up 60% on their account. So they put in $1,000, right? They're going to be up their 1,000 plus their 600, right? There's nothing wrong with that. That's still a good trade, but then they're not going to know where to exit. And what happens is on a day trade like NQ, ES, you know, YM, what's happening to individuals is when they're buying inside of expansions, it's harder to manage the trade, right? So on a day trade, it's harder to manage, and on a portfolio swing trade like this, or like a long-term investment, it's harder to manage because you're more susceptible to risk because you bought in an expansion instead of inside supply demand, right? And so, yeah. So I mean, yeah, that's kind of what happened to me. I ended up buying most of my crypto on a breakout area, right? When I first got a bigger position, and I was able to carry that up until we broke, as you can see here, these highs into this area. It was over 100% return, right? And I was able to get out before it just started really breaking down. Like, it started breaking down here, and I started getting out, and then it started to really break down. I was like, you know, feeling pretty good about it, and then it just freaking pumped, right? Another rally from that 56,000 area back up. So nothing wrong with it. And then that's the same area, like I said, that they did that. And so now we're just kind of looking for, are they going to hold this demand area, or are they going to slip below 50,000, you know, fill some inefficiencies in the lower areas of like 40, 30,000, and then reaccumulate and reclaim to go higher. So those are the only ones that I'm personally looking at, is BTC and Ethereum at this exact moment. But yeah, so that, definitely download that, or take a screenshot of that Wall Street cheat sheet, print that off, put it in your office. You guys obviously know I have it here in my office, and it definitely will help you with different setups. So real quick, one last thing. We went over everything. We went over the pre-New York short. We went over the buy that I didn't take that we thought was a good one, though, and short covering, great example. Hesitated on the first sell. Could have probably would have had a crazy day. I would have been done. I wouldn't have had the day that I had if I would have just caught that short down. So I'm glad I actually didn't, because then I was able to catch that second half of the day buy. So for tomorrow, really quick, what we're looking for, legendary bro. Please save this if you can, man. I wonder every day how I reach it. Oh, it's just because I don't post enough, bro. I'm about to start posting like hella, and I'm about to start dropping more like long form, like actual how-to stuff, like how to actually do all this stuff. It's just my brain is so full of stuff, dude. So we'll get better with time, but we're grateful for where we're at. But going into tomorrow, just so you guys have an idea, I'm looking for price to continue higher through these highs, right? Through now, the high of day at this point, because we're on a new day, is going to be the previous day high, right? So now you're just going to move this to previous day high, right? And that's our new upside target, 25,243s. And then I'm looking for, like you guys know, ICT, smart money concepts, etc. I'm looking for 50% of the fair value gap as an area to be a target. So 25,280. So what does that look like on the swing trades for NAS 100? Right? It's going to look exactly the same. It's just the price levels are going to read differently. Okay. And so I'm looking for price to fill that inefficiency and go above, which was the high of day, which now, since we have a new market open, is going to be the previous day high. Right? And then we have the liquidity spot that we talked about that we want, right? Which is here, double top, right? We love M patterns where people say, oh, that's resistance. Let me put my stop loss here. Price goes in their favor. They never trail their risk down. They never secure the bag. And then bam, it just comes and takes them out. All right? So we'll see what we get in the morning. Now, tomorrow morning, just because we had such a freaking crazy day today, we will most likely trade futures on here, like on this link. And then, like I said, just be on the lookout inside the Telegram for the new Zoom link, which we're gonna offer. Like, it's a more of a premium group. And then also the people that are in that premium group, I'm gonna do like one-on-one coaching and like help them with their actual edge and help them with what I've been able to personally do, right? So if you guys don't have any other questions, that's pretty much it for me today, because like I said, we're just waiting for this to possibly play out and look for what we're going to see tomorrow. But I really, with what I'm seeing right now, looking at like a 4 hour as well and looking at a 1 hour comparison, it just looks more than likely to see price continue to find its way up, at least through that liquidity for the overnight. So no, I appreciate you, bro. I'm glad you're doing good. I'm sure you're killing it. I know you're always like running and stuff like that. So I haven't been able to run because I hurt my knee. I just ran for the first time the other day. It was the slowest 2 miles I think I've ever ran in my life. Yeah, I've heard of Mamba FX, bro. I don't want to speak negatively or on any trader or anything like that. He's one of the top course sellers that I've ever seen, though. So he's able to, post a lot of different stuff. He has a lot of partnerships with, brokers and stuff, so he can definitely manipulate what he shows. But he's killing it. He's one of the guys that kills it in the influencer game for sure. And then really quick, I'll just go over this here to finish the call. I'm not going to go in depth on like ES and YM, but the reason why we were also looking for those buys to push for NQ and like our ES areas is because that week low was being delivered on YM, and then by seeing that, we kind of know that if people are short on YM, especially from like market open down to weekly, there's 700 points in profit. If they're not putting buy limits under those old lows, then something's wrong, right? And so tomorrow, what you could see, right, is you could possibly see these all run back up, right? And that's the type of market that we're in, like when you're looking at like a daily, we're just ranging and we're wanting to break out one of the ways. So we're just kind of being A to B type setups and just being, objective to anything that's like we want the bigger moves, but if they don't present themselves, then we're not gonna be like, oh, upset if they don't happen. Okay. Glad to hear she's about to go runner now. Yeah, no, I feel a lot better that I can run again because my knee was pretty jacked up. And then, okay, so let's finish this out here really quick. Just want to show this daily real fast. So it's like, imagine how the markets work, right? You look at a line graph, right? We're just consolidating, right? Like, it's very difficult price in between here. But I will say this, if price is consolidating on daily, all right, so this is consolidation. If price can continue to hold these areas after drawing on liquidity, it makes sense to see something like this, a breakout, and then maybe price will come up and test this area and fall at the 700s, or we're going to continue up to go take out those previous highs. That's the only thing that can really essentially happen, right? So it's just now we're having to be very patient and read candle closures on, like we're looking at a daily consolidation, we're seeing accumulation at the same time, so we just have to be able to read the smaller time frames, H4, H1, 15.5, 1 minute, to see if price is closing bodies to show more signs of strength. So cool. I don't want to jam pack you guys with too much, but be on the lookout for tomorrow morning because I'm pretty sure I'll be on here looking for at least a little quick setup, nothing crazy, then do a payout, and then be on for the weekend. So appreciate you guys watching. Shoot me a DM if you guys have any other questions or things that I could do to make this better, or quality, or if I need to zoom in on certain things, or if you just can't see something, whatever. But you guys have a blessed day, and keep sniping.